And we're talking impeachment today, and a lot of you apparently have a lot of things you want to say. Let's start with Luke in St. Albans, Vermont. Hey, Luke, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Thanks for taking my call. I like the show.
Thank you.
I agree with a lot of the politics of people who are opposing it, but I just don't think, we understand the history of humanity well enough. I mean, this isn't new. We've seen how this stuff works out. We know the danger of precedent. I personally would have been a big fan of impeaching George W. Bush, for instance, for torture.
Or for lying us into a war. I mean, he's
exactly.
He's arguably the third president to lie us into a war. You had the Spanish-American War, where McKinley, got his war with his little conspiracy with the yellow newspaper guy. Who sent a note to Frederick Remington saying, "Get me the pictures, I'll give you the war." And then you had Lyndon Johnson lying us into the war in Vietnam, and then you had Bush lying us and Cheney lying us into the war in Iraq. You would think eventually we'd say enough is enough, and yeah, I'm with you, Luke.
Right, but we don't, and the danger of precedent is just it's just I don't think people understand how crippling it is. I look back at Roman history with Pompey the Great. Now, the Roman Republic was, it wasn't perfect, but it lasted for centuries. Mm-hmm. And then during these civil wars, here comes some guy who's too young to have an army. They had rules about who could actually have an army, who could be a general. And here comes this guy named Pompey who has an army. And there's this guy named Sulla who's fighting a civil war. He says, well, I need an army, so we're going to break the rules. And it just sort of follows this. And then, decades later, you get Augustus, who says, well, Pompey did it.
Right, and that was the end of the Republic.
Exactly, and nothing like it ever came back. And again, the Republic, I can't say the Republic was this great thing of freedom, it was clear oligarchy or whatever, but still, it was a complete upheaval of the system. It was a dissolving of the myths that keep a society together. Like Rome had this myth called no kings.
Right, well, it's not even a myth. It's really a standard. A consensus about appropriate behavior in political office.
Right. And when we break this precedent, when we go against how we look at ourselves, like, for instance, this idea of foreign interference in our elections are sacrosanct. Now, perhaps they've been molested, perhaps there's been cheating in the past, but the idea within our zeitgeist is they are sacred.
Right.
And if we let someone get away with openly interfering with the democratic process. 2
elections in a row, no less.
Right. And we've thrown the sacred away. You could argue the Russian game. We have proof here. We don't even have to deal with speculation or whatever. Right. We have a guy who's admitted it. There's black and white evidence. He's admitted it.
Well, but with regard to Russia, he stood on television, and I believe it was during one of the debates, and he said, Russia, if you can find Hillary's emails, I know that you'll be rewarded. And literally, the record that Mueller uncovered was that 4 hours later, Russia was penetrating the server of the DNC.
Right, and then sanctions haven't been enforced and whatnot. Yeah. No, but yes, I'm just saying, if you just want to look at black and white, if you don't want to deal with any other conspiracies, if you don't want to look at any other evidence, he admitted it. Yeah. Everyone around him has admitted it. Right. And this destroys the American, I want to say myth, but I don't know if that's the right word. Yeah. But the American myth that our democracy and our voting is sacred.
Right.
And I don't know where you go from there. It's sort of like Mitch McConnell refusing to even hear about Merrill Garland or the nominee. Yeah. I don't know what you do from there.
Yeah, well, I think Mitch McConnell should have been impeached for that, but it's nobody wants to take him on. He's got so much power.